The moment that shattered my life didn't happen in private or behind closed doors, it happened under bright dining room lights, with my parents, cousins, and even my grandmother watching. I remember the exact second. My wife froze mid-laugh, my brother's hand still resting where it shouldn't have been, and the room fell silent like someone had pulled the air out. My chest burned, my ears rang, and all I could think was, this can't be real. I hadn't walked into a mistake. I had walked into a truth that had been hiding in plain sight. My wife and I had been married for 6 years. We weren't perfect, but we were stable, or at least I thought so. We had routines, Sunday grocery runs, late-night takeout on Fridays, and arguments about money that always ended with, we'll figure it out. My brother lived nearby and was over constantly. He'd help fix things, borrow tools, and join family dinners. Everyone trusted him. I trusted him more than anyone. That trust felt solid, unbreakable, like something you don't even question, until it snaps so loudly you hear it echo. Family was everything to us. That's why gatherings were frequent and loud, usually hosted at my parents' house. This particular night was supposed to be normal, a birthday dinner for my dad. My wife helped cook, laughing with my mom. My brother arrived late, apologizing, flashing that familiar grin. I remember thinking how lucky I was, surrounded by people who loved me. If someone had told me an hour later I'd be sitting in my car, shaking and unable to breathe, I would have laughed at the idea. Looking back, the signs were there, subtle enough to ignore. My wife texting more often, turning her phone face down. My brother suddenly knowing details about my work stress I hadn't shared. When I asked casually, she'd say, "You're imagining things." He'd joke, "Man, you're paranoid." I believed them because believing them was easier than imagining betrayal from the two people closest to me. I didn't want to be the suspicious husband or the jealous brother. So I swallowed the discomfort and told myself everything was fine. The unease started growing weeks before the dinner. I noticed my wife volunteering to run errands at odd hours, always when my brother was around the neighborhood. One night, I saw a message preview on her phone from him. "Did you miss me?" She snatched the phone away and said, "It's nothing, he's joking." My stomach tightened, but I let it go. Later, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling while she slept, wondering why my instincts suddenly felt louder than reason. I started paying attention without meaning to. I noticed how they avoided eye contact around me, then overcompensated with forced laughter. I checked our phone bill and saw long calls between them late at night. When I asked my brother directly, he laughed and said, "Relax, man. We're family." That word, family, shut me up. I didn't want to accuse him of something so ugly without proof. Still, the tension followed me everywhere, like a shadow I couldn't outrun. The day of the dinner, I almost didn't go. Work had been rough, and my head was spinning with doubts. My wife insisted, saying, "Your dad will be disappointed if we're late." On the drive over, she was unusually quiet. My brother texted me, "See you tonight." Something about it felt wrong, but I ignored it. I told myself I was being dramatic. I even promised myself I'd stop overthinking after tonight, one way or another. After dinner, while everyone was in the living room, I stepped back toward the hallway to grab my jacket. That's when I heard a hushed laugh. I turned the corner and saw them, my wife pressed close to my brother, his hand on her waist, her fingers gripping his sleeve. They didn't hear me at first. When they did, my wife gasped, and my brother jerked back like a guilty teenager. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by my mother asking, "What's going on?" I didn't yell. I couldn't. My voice came out calm and terrifyingly steady. "How long?" I asked. My brother stammered, "It's not what it looks like." My wife didn't deny it. She just crossed her arms and sighed. My dad stood up, furious, while my mom looked like she might faint. Everyone waited for my wife to say sorry, to cry, to explain. Instead, she looked straight at me and said, "I didn't plan for you to find out like this." That sentence hurt more than anything else. I asked, "So it's true?" She nodded. My brother tried to speak, but my dad shut him down with a glare. Then my wife said the words that broke me completely, "I'm not sorry. I've been unhappy for years, and he makes me feel seen. No shame. No regret. Just honesty that felt like a knife." She added, "I stayed because it was easier. Tonight just forced my hand." The room erupted. My parents yelled. My brother tried to apologize, saying, "I never meant to hurt you." I laughed, a short, hollow sound, and said, "You meant it every time you lied." My wife grabbed her purse and said, "I'm leaving." I asked where she'd go. She looked at my brother. That was the twist I hadn't prepared for, the realization that this wasn't a mistake, but a choice they'd already made long before I walked in on them. The weeks after were brutal. I moved out temporarily, then decided the house was mine and asked her to leave permanently. We split finances, canceled joint accounts, and spoke only through short, cold messages. My brother stopped coming around. My parents cut contact with him entirely. One night, my wife texted, "I hope someday you understand." I didn't reply. Understanding wasn't required for survival. What I needed was distance, space to breathe, and the strength to accept that love doesn't excuse betrayal. Divorce was finalized quickly. No kids, no shared property beyond the house. Friends chose sides quietly. Some reached out with apologies for not seeing it sooner. Therapy became part of my routine, every Wednesday at 6 p.m. I learned how much I'd ignored my own needs to keep the peace. The hardest part wasn't losing my marriage, it was losing my brother. That grief felt different, heavier. I mourned someone who was still alive but no longer existed in my life. Months later, I ran into my ex-wife at a grocery store. She looked tired. She said, "I didn't think it would end like this." I replied, "Neither did I." We stood there awkwardly,